So, with regard to Hezbollah, and particularly, my question is actually about the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. In the past 3-4 years, when there was a lot of largesse coming to any group that was fighting against ISIS, what we see is that there was a growing number of militias in the region that was supported by Iran. Do you think some of that Western largesse actually ended up in Iranian coffers and ended up, strengthening the capabilities of the Revolutionary Guards? And even if not that, don't you think it gave them a larger space that they filled up?
So you mean the largesse given to, let's say, Iraq to fight the IS?
Yes.
Almost certainly. I mean, it's almost, the funds for this kind of thing are highly fungible. You can never tell where exactly they're going. You assume, when I've talked to intelligence people, officials in many governments, including our own, and I say, okay, I hear you're supporting X, Y, and Z group in such and such country. And I asked them, I said, are you certain that these people are getting it? They said, look, just because it is covert and there can be no accounting, automatically assume 50% of that money is just going to go someplace else, right? Some guy is going to, everybody along the path will take off a little bit for themselves and dump it in a Swiss bank account or in Dubai or Singapore. What we hope is that 25 to 30% eventually reaches its actual destination. But the nature of covert finance is automatically means it has to be zero accountability because there can be no record of that money. So we're pretty certain in the case of Iraq and even in Afghanistan, whatever money America poured there, and it was trillions of dollars over the decades that they fought there, that a huge chunk of it ended up in the wrong hands, and including into the militaries, or into the hands of the Al-Quds force. And it was often, if you gave it to, let's say, an Iraqi group that was fighting the Islamic State, they would often try to make sure that Al-Quds didn't undermine them or cause them problems. They would say, okay, we'll give you 10% of the money, and then we will use, and that you had to basically, each local leader effectively struck their own deals with other parts of the world because the Iraqi government was too weak to provide that security. That's almost part of the game. I mean, there's almost nothing you can do about that. Right. So that's I wouldn't be a surprise at all. If you were ever to dig around, you'd almost certainly find that a fair amount of that.
So we are talking about this arc of instability, Pramit. Closer home, there's this prospect of Pakistan planning to deport over 1 million Afghan refugees back to Afghanistan. Many of these refugees have been in Pakistan for decades, and we in fact spoke with Pakistan-based journalist Zulkarnain Tahir, political correspondent with The Dawn, to understand what's going on. Let's listen in.
You see the Pakistan government taking you can say the shelter in that thing. We are providing them, providing them great hospitality for such a long period of time, like 4 decades. So they say it's time to move on because of the internal problems. And the internal problem, the major problem it has identified, that is the Afghan nationals are involved in terror activities in Pakistan. They say the government released the data of late that of 24 terror attacks happened in recent times. Of them, 14 were Afghan nationals. So that was one of the major area. Because of that, the government said we have decided to send them back.
Pramit, it appeared that the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan in 2021 was going to give Pakistan strategic depth. It now seems to be a strategic nightmare for Pakistan with the kind of ISIS attacks.
Correct.
50% up in the last year or so.
Well, it's Tehrik-i-Taliban that's carrying out the attacks, which is affiliated with the Islamic State, but seems to be an independent force. But yes, exactly. It is. I think was one of the big surprises for India, at least. Remember, we fought desperately to try to keep the Americans in. We were the one. We actually held the presidency of the Security Council when we got the resolution. We got the resolution passed, saying that no government should recognize the Taliban until it achieves a certain degree of these various humanitarian requirements, including women's education and so on. And we assumed that, we got even China on board on this because everybody was so nervous about the Taliban. The only country that was fully supportive was Pakistan because they assumed, as you said, that this would be a friendly regime, which is something they'd been desperate for. And within weeks, the Taliban turned on them.